What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, continuing my deep dive into Frank Zappa's guitar solos, in which I rank the guitar solos against each other within an album, and then I rank those albums compared to the other albums based on guitar solos only. This is part like 78, I believe. Haven't done this in a while, only because the only real ones I have left are two massive box sets, and one of them I kind of don't want to rank. The Hot Rats solos, they're all just... It's going to be hard, really, to pick a difference between those Willie the Pimps, but summer's here and the time is right for being a teacher and doing nothing all day, so I should have time. But today we got this one, Cheaper Than Cheap, the most recent release. I'm going to rank the solos on here. There's what it looks like. Let's put that up there so you can see it closer. There are 11 solos on here that I counted as solos. Two of the songs, what is it, Wowie Zowie and How Could I Be Such a Fool, have like jamming at the end of them, or the I Don't Even Care track. Frank's like dropping off licks and doing runs while Nappy and George are singing. I didn't really count those as solos. They're great moments, and the band is fantastic and they're cool, but I don't know if they officially count as quote unquote solos, so I did not count those. That leaves me with 11. I'm going to go from 11 to 1, talk about them. I will put the list up on the screen at the end, and then I will rank this album among the other albums that I've already done. Got it? All right. These are just my thoughts. That's it. I have the DVD or the Blu-ray now. I had the Blu-ray before, but I hadn't watched it because I did not yet own a Blu-ray player. I was going to go to a friend's house, and then I got a gift card for the end of the year to Best Buy, an electronics store here in the States. So I bought a Blu-ray player, and I watched it. Oh my goodness, it is amazing. Watching Chester drum, I could do that all day. Napoleon Murphy Brock might be the best frontman Frank has ever had, that most bands have ever had. I will never listen to Village of the Sun the same way again. Like, I have an image in my head of what is happening on stage when these songs are played. Nappy's performance in Village just completely changed that song for me in a really, really good way. That is an amazing Blu-ray release. It is so much fun to watch. It is just, yeah, kudos. Really, really good times. But anyways, on to solos. Solo number 11, Camarillo Brillo. Short little closing solo. Usually George just gets a closing solo. Frank's like, nah, man, I want to get in on this fun. This has been a good time. It's the encore number. It's the last one of the show, of the night, of the recording. Frank's like, hey, man, I got a couple things to say. Not very long, but it's just fun. Number 10 is Cosmic Debris, the opening solo. I really, really like this solo. Like, I like all of these solos. This is an excellent, excellent release as far as solos go. Cosmic Debris is always good. This was the first song of the night. This was a lot of times played as the first song of a show. It is a great warm-up solo. Frank kind of gets nasty. They run through like the progression in the solo section 3 times, and every time they run through it, Frank kind of gets a little more aggressive, gets a little more intense, kind of ups the intensity. So by the time we're finished with and we go back into the song, it's perfect. Frank's warmed up. He's got a little sweat worked out. We know the show is going to be good. There's a cold stop after Cosmic Debris, which I really, really like when they do that on this tour, because there's not a lot of cold stops on this tour. Frank does a lot of, I'm going to talk while the band vamps, and then we'll go on to the next song. The cold stop really almost makes Cosmic feel like this, like, prologue. All right, that was the warm-up number. George got a chance to solo, Nappy soloed, band's warmed up. All right, now let's do the show proper. But it's a fantastic warm-up. Next on the list at number 9 is the Eco Road solo. And a couple of these solos are probably where they are on this list because I'm comparing them to where they would be by the end of 74 or in 79 or 88. And this Inca Roads, we're still with this old rhythm that is very locked in, and it's like this, and it ends with this very prominent dun every time the vamp is finished. And they really, really stick closely to that dun. And Frank's solo takes on this fractured quality because of that, where every time they get to the dun, it's almost like, okay, I'm on a new idea, I'm onto a new thought. It starts off really cool, kind of patient, kind of setting a motif that it looks like he's going to build on. It's got sort of the patience of an old school Inca, but that rhythm, just that vamp that they're sticking so close to, it just ultimately kind of fragments his solo. He kind of feels locked into that groove. He doesn't really get the chance to like just compose this sort of epic narrative, which I think like the ones when we get to like, you know, the meat of the Incas in like the European part of the tour, the one on One Size Fits All is from the European part of the tour. We don't get these epic narratives that I think Inca would eventually achieve. And it just, yeah, it just seems like there's a little bit of a focus lost in this throughout it, just because that vamp. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we're in the da-na-na-na, we're into the closing outro. You're like, oh, that came kind of soon. Still a good solo. Still fun to see Frank try to work his way through this rhythm. But yeah, I mean, there's better solos in this show. Number 8, Dupree's Paradise. This is another one in which a lot of times for the Duprees prior to this, and in some sense after this, once we get to Frank's solo, we've gone through like the Dupree's theme and we drop into a solo and it's kind of a blank slate. Frank could sketch out some ideas, maybe play some zoot chords, do that sort of Zoot-Allure 76 thing where he's just kind of like sketching and dancing before he commits to an idea. We're fully in sort of a Dupree's Paradise vamp from the beginning, and it's actually kind of funky, and it's actually kind of upbeat, and has a lot more drive and energy and Chester funk energy than a normal Dupree's Paradise. So it's a fantastic groove. The energy is fantastic, but Frank, he does a Tamershi Dween. He messes around with like some Tamershi Dween melodies for a while. He plays an apostrophe little tease, a short little apostrophe tease. He gets super aggressive, then he brings it back down. It's another one where it doesn't seem like a lot of the Duprees, even though they're kind of relentlessly experimental and Frank really is just taking his time and exploring. This one, it just seems he's got a lot of disparate ideas that don't kind of join together into one cohesive whole. The playing is fantastic. You know, it's still Frank in 74. It's still got Chester on drums. But it just seems like it could be more. It could be bigger. But yeah, so that's a number 8. Number 7, Penguin and Bondage. Like Cosmic Debris, all through this tour, this one delivers, this one delivers, this one delivers. You know what you're going to get. It's another one where there's like a progression, like a sort of a blues progression they run through, and every time they finish it and they start over, Frank ups the intensity of the solo. He kind of digs in a little bit more. This one, there are times where he really starts getting aggressive. He's making that guitar scream. He's really bending the notes. And this is the solo that follows Inca Roads. There's a number of songs between the two. No, there's like a little jam between the two. But sort of the cohesiveness of this solo stands apart and almost feels a little better because it follows that kind of fragment in Inca Roads. And I think having those two sequence, this one is like, okay, Frank's got it together. He's got an idea. We know what he's doing. And Penguin always just delivers. You know what you're going to get in this solo. Frank just... It's pretty straightforward. The band knows what they're going to do. They lock in a groove. Really fantastic solo. Starts off with a really nice melodic idea before Frank starts going just frantic and crazy. That would be my number 7. Number 6, Let's Make the Water Turn Black. We get a legit solo at the end of the song. This is it's pretty straightforward, pretty much just Frank shredding rock style. But because of where it's coming at the end of a Let's Make the Water Turn Black, a kind of pop proggy Let's Make the Water Turn Black, fantastic arrangement of the song. There are times when it almost towards the end of it, because it just keeps going on and on and on, kind of slides into like a more epic Inca territory before Frank starts going darker and lower and just getting a little more like an intense with his playing. And then just kind of a perfect little ending. A little too short. I mean, this could go on forever and I would be happy. But it's a really good solo. There's sort of melodic lines in here that almost have this nostalgic vibe to them that connect to sort of the nostalgic storytelling of Let's Make the Water Turn Back. Remember that time? Those things in a jar? What memories. This is a song that should have stayed in the rotation. This would have worked so well in 74 if they could have done this as just like a regular song, admit stuff like this Village, A Kid in His Harp would have been a fantastic sequence. I don't know. just you end with a solo, and then all of a sudden Frank's like dun 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 into Village. I don't know. I think that would be fantastic. But yeah, really, really good solo. Number 6. Number 5 is the Son of Orange County solo. Frank just doing awesome Son of Orange County things. Nice, serious, dramatic intro. Very like, yeah, you know, I cannot believe you are a crook. We're in some serious energy here, some serious messages. Frank's going off. It's just absolutely amazing. He definitely just kind of goes off rock style, you know, in this. We get a nice big build before we like kind of bring it down, before we ease into the Orange County lumber truck. It's your epic Son of Orange County. Like, I mean, it's like we're in the middle of a really serious conversation about politics, and Frank has a lot to say about Richard Nixon, and he's going to do it through his guitar. Richard Nixon is the Son of Orange County, if you didn't know that. I'm assuming that's who it's reference to, who is, you know, about to leave office here in the States as president for stealing stuff. All right, that would be number 5. Number 4 is Montana. Excellent Montana. Weird little, we're between the sort of really funk of the 73, early 74 Montanas and heading off in the direction of the more exploratory Montanas. We're kind of caught in the middle where the band's slightly funky, Frank's slightly funky, but he's also pushing that sort of 74, let's do whatever we want to do narrative. It is too short, but the groove is fantastic. Frank has a lot of patience throughout. Attacks, pulls back, a lot of little pockets of ideas in this Montana. I just finished watching, reviewing, listening to, I didn't watch, reviewed and listened to the entire third leg, the final leg of the Fall 74 tour. Those are up here. My reviews are on this channel. And at the end of that leg, I deemed that for that run of shows, the third leg, and then for now, until I listen to the first and second legs, Montana is the MVP of that tour. I think Montana brought consistent solos, brought exploratory solos, brought some of the neatest ideas as far as Frank's guitar playing. Inca was up for that, but Inca got injured and didn't make it through the end of the tour. Dupree's was 100% up for that, but it kind of disappeared in November. Also didn't make it to the end of the tour. Redunzel, possibly, but Redunzel had a rough going in early November where Montana didn't. So Montana is, I would say, the MVP right now of the Summer Fall 74 tour. We'll find out how those early months go eventually. This one shows you that direction. Like, the energy is fantastic. The band is locked in. You're just like in your own world when you're in a Montana solo. And this one delivers. It's just too short. Just too short. Number 3 is Redunzel. I just got to say something about Ruth's intro in the beginning. Played much faster than it would be for the rest of the tour. Watching this on the Blu-ray, just, yeah, bam, mind blown. Nice, dramatic, heavy intro. We're immediately in deep on this Redunzel. He's not taking time to develop ideas. We're just in there. There's an intensity to this. There's an urgency to this. There are some Inca flavors in this. It's aggressive. Every time it feels like we're going to commit to this more majestic Inca vibe, Frank starts getting really scrappy and starts like going off into like darker corners. Way too short, just way too short. My only complaint, what we get here in this solo is perfect. I just want it to be twice as long. Just give us more of this, Frank. Excellent, excellent solo. And then when we get to watch George's solo, the camera angle is like George is in front of the camera and Chester is right behind him. And you get to watch Chester support George during that solo. I could watch Chester all day. Number 2 is Apostrophe, which is just, it's pretty much 2 parts. We get the traditional like 2-minute solo in the middle, which is just pure frenzied aggression by Frank. Absolutely amazing. And then we go back into the theme, and then Frank solos some more, and then we go back into the part of the theme, and then Frank solos some more, and then we go back into a part of the theme, and then Frank solos some more. There's not much to this solo other than pure aggression and pure frenzy and pure energy and essentially producing what has to be the best version of Apostrophe ever, at least that I've heard live. I believe the one on the Zappa soundtrack is a edited version of this, is a shortened version of this one because they're both from the same date. So though I haven't come back and listened to it yet. But this is just absolutely amazing. It almost was number one just because of the energy, because of the surprise element, because Frank really does just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing at the end. And you have this sense like, oh, it's just never going to end. It's just going to keep going forever. And that is fantastic. But the one that's at number one, More Trouble Every Day, that feels like more of a composed compositional solo. And it probably ekes out Apostrophe just because it just feels like there's more developed ideas and it doesn't just feel like pure aggression being spilled onto the stage. But the More Trouble, super funky intro. Frank is like plays this little funky motif that Nappy's like actually Baba singing along with before they get into the solo proper, and Frank just takes off. So that nice little segue from the song with Nappy like doing like some scat singing over Frank's solo and into the solo provides a really nice segue. This is nasty. It's full of attitude. Frank is totally in the groove the entire time. At one point, it's like Frank purposely kind of puts on the brakes a little bit to get some of that Chester 74 weirdness where it feels like the rhythm is just going to fall apart and you don't know what's going to happen. And they do that briefly before they quickly bring it back together and Frank is off again. Napoleon is randomly screaming at times in here. Like, this is this band in full use of its powers. Like, I believe, I mean, Simmons would eventually be gone, right? And Simmons here is pretty much just, I'm not even sure he's doing rhythmic support on this. But this is the band that would tour for the next 6 months. And like, if you're Frank, listening to the energy of this band and this solo and just hearing how they're supporting you and the way this is going, you got to be super excited for what the upcoming tour looks like because this band is locked in. You can tell like the Fowler Chester connection on the rhythm section is just out of control. George is doing fantastic stuff. Nappy knows when to just walk in and make like screaming noises. Like, this might not win out, but this is, of all the solos in this show, this is a legitimate possible top 10 for the remainder of this tour. If you're going to include this as part of, I mean, it's the day before summer, first day of summer. So if you're going to include this in the summer fall 74 tour, this show is maybe the kickoff of that, even though Simmons wouldn't be there. This is a contender for a top 10 solo. It would probably lose out to like 10 other Montanas, to be honest with you, though there's an Inca and a Redunzel and some Pygmies that would slot themselves in there. But I think this has to be in the discussion. It has to be considered. It's putting in a good enough performance where you're like, all right, this is definitely in consideration for top 10. Fantastic solo. And being that it's at the end of the show, you're like, yeah, what a fantastic way to go out. That's what they look like when they are put on paper, from 11 to 1. I do think those top two are probably clearly the best, I would argue. I think Redunzel and Montana are probably being a little bit penalized for not being what they would be, but they're still excellent solos. The How Could I Be Such a Fool and I Don't Even Care Which Are Not on here, that's some great playing. They're just too short, I think, and too fragmented to really be considered solos. All of these are interesting. All of these are engaging. I don't think any of those are like, what is Frank doing type things. So it's an excellent outing from start to finish. And even though there's not a solo in this, I do want to give a shout out to I'm Not Satisfied. This version is amazing. The energy, just what a fantastic song. I'm glad that stayed through the remainder of the tour as just this little nice 2-minute treat that propped up. Good choice, Frank. But if I had to rank this among all the others, right there, it's at 25, which, I mean, these are Frank Zappa solos. This is early in what I think is the best tour. Summer Fall 74 is my favorite tour as far as solos go. This is literally the first step in that journey. 25 is the top third. I think that's a pretty good place to be for Frank. Yeah, for a Frank tour. I mean, he's usually delivering when he picks up that guitar and plays. But yeah, that's where I have it right now. You can see what my top 10 are. Yeah, a lot of 74 era stuff, making it quite a high up that list. But anyways, all right, that's all yeah, those are my thoughts. Way too much time talking about 11 guitar solos. But a fantastic release. The guitar playing is amazing. I love Chester. I love Fowler. That is my favorite rhythm section of Frank's career. A fantastic release. And watching Frank play, like, these solos are better on the DVD just because you get to see what he does. You get to see the band support him. It's just I highly recommend the Blu-ray, people. Check it out. I bought a Blu-ray player at Best Buy for like pretty unaffordable. You can get pretty serviceable ones pretty inexpensively. That's what I did. I've been starting to rent Blu-rays at the library now, so that's pretty cool. But anyways, that's all I got. I'm rambling. Let me know your thoughts on these solos, what you think is your favorite, what things I messed up on, all that stuff. Frank Zappa fans know how it works. Everybody knows how it works. If you got an opinion, drop it. All right, that's all I got. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Peace. Talk to you later.